Hello! This video is about how I accidentally and then not so accidentally turned myself into a witch for Halloween. At the end of the summer, I thrifted this really cute fabric, but I didn't know quite what to do with it. My husband suggested that I make a witch hat, and I took that idea and totally ran with it, and ended up creating such a fun project. If you want to see the full process that took, I'll link a video below and above for you to check out. But suffice to say, I had myself a hat, and then I got hyper fixated on this adorable spiderweb top that I saw on TikTok, so I decided to try to give it a go and crochet it myself. And once I had those two things, I was basically already a witch. So I decided to use the leftover fabric that I had from the hat to create a corset so that I could wear that over a dress to tie it all together. Hello. It's time to make a Halloween costume. Recently I made this hat, and I thought I could make a little corset and wear a little dress and be a little witch. So it's time to get started on the corset. We need to iron this, cut out all the pieces, and then sew it all together for like a mock-up slash hopefully, if it works well, a lining. Let's get into it. It's so funny watching back that footage because I already sounded so tired thinking about cutting this out once, and the amount of times that I actually had to cut out the pattern pieces, I don't want to talk about it yet. But that night I was feeling good, I ironed some things down, and I sat down to watch the Great British Bake Off while I cut out my pattern pieces. Either because the Great British Bake Off new season is out now, or because I haven't sewn in a while, this process, which is usually the most annoying part, is actually feeling really soothing to me right now. It's really nice to come back to something and feel excited to do it. Will I feel this way later? You tell me, future editing Mimi. You tell me. There's the first piece done, so let's go do a lot more. And do a lot more I did. I ended up cutting out the whole pattern and sewing it together that night, only to realize that tragedy had struck and I had cut it out completely wrong. Instead of cutting out the line that I was supposed to cut, I cut the finish line on the pattern. This is the first time a pattern I've ever used has had this instruction on it, so I was a little thrown off. And possibly because of the doubt that that gave me, I decided the next morning to make a mock-up. I have come to an unfortunate decision, and that is that I think I am actually going to do a mock-up.
I'm trying to get better at my sewing.
And the only way to get better at something, unfortunately, is to practice doing it. We're gonna use this to cut out the lining and the outer side of every piece. And we're gonna practice. So I did make a whole mock-up. I did not film a ton of the process because I just wanted to do it as quickly as possible, but I did practice each of the steps, which meant that I cut out all of the fabric 2 more times, which was a lot. Once the mock-up was complete, I was feeling more confident, although my 2 cents on mock-ups as a very novice sewer is that I don't know how helpful they are if you don't know how to fix the problems, right? Because mock-ups are to help you figure out the fit and help you see how it will look, and maybe there's merit in me practicing all of the steps before I do it on my nice fabric. But I don't know how to fix fit problems yet. I'm not good enough at sewing yet, so those are my thoughts on mock-ups. Anyways, after my mock-up was done, I moved on to cutting it on the real fabric and immediately made a mistake. I regret to inform you that I already made a mistake. I cut this piece out going this way, but the only way that this pattern piece will fit now is going the other way. And so since there was nothing I could do about it, I got to cutting out that piece and the rest of the pattern. Here's how it was looking when it was all done. Here are all the pieces. We have the 2 sides for the front, sides to go on the sides of the front, the back sides, and then the little straps. So let's get all of this together. And so I spent the rest of that night sewing together the outer lining with my main fabric, and then I took a break because I realized I needed to head to Joann's for 2 things. Hello and welcome to the Prius. Last night I finished all of the outside pieces with our fabric, and it looks pretty good. I'm pretty excited about how it's going to all come together. But we need interfacing and we need some type of boning. In the past, I have just used zip ties, but since I'm a pretty new seamstress, a pretty new person who sews.
What word are we supposed to use?
Anyways, since I'm a pretty new whatever that word is, I kind of do an experiment with different types of boning, and so I think I might just look around at Joann's and see what they have. Joann!
The woman was too stunned to speak.
What? Is this how people feel about Halloween in September? And so, in typical me fashion, I got some things I needed and a lot of things I didn't.
There's 4 more of these.
Once I got home, I took a good look at the one seam I had done and decided to zigzag stitch and then top stitch down all of the seams.
Thinking about how much this is fraying and just worried that it might not hold. So I'm gonna go ahead and zigzag stitch all of these and then top stitch both sides of them all down. Let's get to sewing. Even though I was complaining a little bit about zigzag stitching and then top stitching, I actually did have a lovely afternoon of sewing while watching Halloween Town.
I have big plans for all of us here in Halloween Town. You are the last person.
And after a peaceful day of sewing, I of course had to pull out my seam ripper. So I just did a very
Big brain move.
And while I was stitching the last little boning casing top stitch, I sewed down it's fine. We didn't seam rip. Did it really happen?
So I seam ripped and came back later that night full of delusion.
Hi, it's me. Nighttime, baby. I am convinced that I can finish this tonight, which is probably just delusion. We have this outer lining panel all prepped and ready to go, and we have this, lining panel. Outer lining? I don't know. So all I need to do is put in our zip ties, sew these together, and then put in the holes for the ribbon to go through. It's doable. Let's get started.
Unfortunately, in my Delulu state, it took me a good hour just to get the zip ties prepped and then in the corset, and then a good 45 minutes to pin the corset into place. So I abandoned my project halfway through and decided to go to bed.
Hi. Before I show you, do you want to take a guess at how far I got last night? Let me show you.
All we have left is to finish sewing those 2 panels together and then adding in all of the eyelets for the ribbon, and then we should possibly be done. So then I spent a very good amount of time going very slowly around the edges of this corset, moving pretty slowly, especially around the curved parts. But if you can believe it, I took, I think, an even longer amount of time to flip this thing inside out.
Hi. It hasn't been a year, but I think it has legitimately been about an hour, and I'm all about the process.
I knit for fun, okay?
But taking a whole hour to literally turn 2 straps, tell me why.
Tell me why. Tell me why.
Anyways, then I moved on to ironing it, and unfortunately I took no footage of me inserting the grommets and lacing up this corset, but here's how it was looking when it was all finished. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I really enjoyed this project. This was the first Halloween that I've been able to sew, so it's the first time I've created my own Halloween costume. Thank you so much for watching, and if you would like to see more of me sewing and crafting, please subscribe, and I will see you next time you're feeling crafty. Bye!